Deep in the Colombian jungle, the ruins of a sprawling luxury estate are slowly being swallowed by the jungle. This chart shows the global cocaine market in the 1980s. Notice this 80% share. That single wedge represents the Medellin Cartel, an organization that generated $420 million a week and pushed its leader's net worth past $30 billion. Pablo Escobar grew into the architect of this network from the street level up, eventually bringing a sovereign government to its knees. In the streets of 1970s Medellin, Escobar built his capital through local hustle and brute force. He stole tombstones and sanded off the names to resell them. He forged high school diplomas and kidnapped businessmen, sometimes collecting the ransom and killing the victim anyway. He soon transitioned into the wider contraband market. Smuggling cigarettes and electronics built his logistical network, but Escobar realized the emerging cocaine trade offered profit margins that dwarfed legal goods. From his very first shipments, Escobar's ambition was defined by a belief that rules simply did not apply to him. To scale his shipments, Escobar united Medellin's fractured crime rings into a coordinated corporate monopoly. This map illustrates the cartel's supply chain. Raw coca paste was harvested in Peru and Bolivia, then moved to jungle laboratories in Colombia for chemical refinement. Refined powder was pushed upward, funneled through Caribbean staging grounds to saturate the United States market with multi-ton shipments. To protect these routes, Escobar instituted a binary operating philosophy known as Plata o Plomo, silver or lead. Officials faced a choice: accept a lucrative bribe or expect a bullet. Plata o Plomo functioned as a system of governance. By buying the officials he could and executing the ones who refused, Escobar rendered local law enforcement powerless. By the mid-80s, the cartel faced an unusual operational hurdle. They had billions of dollars in physical cash and needed to launder it while building public legitimacy. Some of this wealth manifested in physical excess at Haciendanopolis, featuring a private airport, a bull ring, and a zoo filled with imported African animals. Escobar also directed cash at Medellin's poorest citizens, funding housing projects, hospitals, and soccer fields in neglected neighborhoods. This philanthropy was a calculated public relations strategy. By acting as the sole financial benefactor for these communities, Escobar bought a human shield of citizens willing to hide him from authorities. This popularity propelled him into the Colombian Congress in 1982. As an alternate representative, he gained parliamentary immunity and a diplomatic passport. The turning point came when Justice Minister Rodrigo Lara Bonilla publicly exposed Escobar as a drug trafficker. The revelation led to Escobar's expulsion from Congress, stripping away his political protection. When the state refused his money and revoked his path to legal immunity, Escobar pivoted from bribery to open war. Driving this violence was the threat of extradition to the United States, a legal tool that Escobar feared because his money could not reach American prisons. The cartel began a campaign of high-level assassinations, starting with Minister Lara Bonilla, the murder of judges, journalists, and politicians. In Medellin, Escobar placed fixed cash bounties on the heads of street cops, turning the city into a combat zone where officers were hunted daily. The violence reached a climax on November 27, 1989, when the cartel detonated a bomb on board Avianca Flight 203. The explosion killed all 107 people on the plane and 3 more on the ground. The target was presidential candidate Cesar Gaviria, who survived by missing the flight. A criminal syndicate was now waging a full-scale terrorist war against a sovereign nation to avoid the rule of law. Exhausted by the violence, the Colombian government surrendered to Escobar's terms in 1991, allowing him to inhabit a luxury private prison he built for himself, known as La Catedral. Escobar ran his empire from the prison until 1992, when the government attempted to move him to a standard facility, but Escobar discovered the plan and walked out the back. His escape triggered a massive manhunt. The Colombian search bloc teamed with the US DEA to pinpoint his location. Simultaneously, a vigilante coalition called Los Pepes began hunting Escobar's associates. Funded by the rival Cali cartel, they used Escobar's own brutal tactics against his family and inner circle. On December 2, 1993, authorities intercepted a phone call Escobar made to his son. The signal was traced to a neighborhood in Medellin, ending in a fatal rooftop shootout. The man who spent his life seeking permanent immunity from prosecution was finally destroyed by a coalition operating entirely outside the law. Escobar's death fragmented the Medellin Cartel into decentralized factions, but the international cocaine trade continued without interruption. Physical scars remain on the landscape. The hippopotamuses abandoned at his estate multiplied and spread into the Magdalena River, becoming a massive invasive species. The psychological impact is equally divided. Families of his victims continue to seek justice, while pop culture often markets Escobar as a folk hero to those who did not live through his era of terror. Pablo Escobar realized his dream of power and historical immortality. He also left behind a country navigating fragmented cartels, invasive ecosystems, and the permanent, bloody cost of his attempt to live above the law.